There are no forests on Earth. When you read this loud headline, even with exclamation mark in the end, every sensible person will say that I'm out of my mind and will throw at me millions of photos with images of forests. I want you to believe this is another trick. They made us think that this is forest. Actually, you are looking at the 30 meters bushes. This is total bullshit and nonsense, you will say to me. Of course we know how forests look like. We all walked and strolled in them. Well, expected reaction, and it's fair. But after listening or reading this chapter, its headline won't seem strange to you, cause you will overturn your concept of forests 360 degrees. And now, first things first. We will begin with well-known picture. Children see 9 dolphins on it, but adults see 2 lovers. A huge difference. Do you agree with me? Make yourself find dolphins now and find out how it's hard. Feminine fruities will flatly refuse to transform into dolphins. It's funny, cause children's problem will be exactly the opposite. This is the first fact. The picture is single, but we see it completely differently. What is more, children and adults can't exchange perceptions. Why it is so? It is simple. I see the way that Matrix ordered, but not the way the real world looks like. Our eyes became traitors over time. We were blinded yet in childhood. Outward world is quite different. We see things through prism of habits and experience. And this prism distorts everything very, very hard. At 30 years of life, this prism gets status of mind protector. And at 40 years of your life, you can go crazy without this prism. You think I'm exaggerating? Look at this photo. I am claiming that this is mesa that was formed from a magmatic melt from the Earth's depths about 200 million years ago. You think I am out of my mind? In my turn, I can blame you in the same thing. You will understand soon. We will come back to this grass plot lately. And now, let's remember how we bumped on the old straw trees. Sometimes even take photos, trying to hug unhuggable stem of the tree. But really, think about it. Old trees are rarity. They are all registered. They are tracked and are kept reserved like a memorial of nature. There were uproar in the network about forests. Why all forests on the earth, even in Siberia, are not older than 200 years? Where are giants? And it is right that people are roaring about it. But I want to step to this question from the different angle, from the sides of the Earth's poles. The thing is that even Soviet biologists found strangeness in the poles. A natural amount of water is kept in ice and snow, and there is a natural percentage of carbon dioxide in the world's ocean. These abnormal concentrations tell us exactly about worldwide fire of the past. Using simple math, those scientists came to conclusion that those fire carried away 99% of Earth's biosphere. We all know that living cells are consists of hydrogen and carbon, so those ice on the poles are made for the most from water, from burnt organisms. And now think about this number, 99%. 100%. It means that everything that now grows, flies, swims, and runs on the earth is 20,000 times less in volume than was before this catastrophe. 20,000 times. To imagine this, look at this picture. This piece of bread is humans, plants, and animals. Just this pathetic small piece of bread near the car that represents Earth's biosphere before those times. I hope you understand that today's myth about overflow of population is just a pure hoax and nonsense, 100%. But here's a problem. Biologists divided this number between all continents and nothing succeed. There is no so much place on the dry land to place it. This theory correct at the seams, but snow and ice are there. It's not going anywhere. Fact is fact. It must be placed on the land. But as always, illumination comes on a sudden. Stereotype of thinking is to blame. 30 meters tall forests is like a virus penetrated in our head and biologist's head and prevented to find solution to this problem. If plants can feed broadwise, then we should feed them upwards, and everything comes clear. In this new theory, hypothetical forests of unthinkable height was drawn. And here's the thing, we found these photos. This is vandalic felling of the sequoias in the California redwood in 1880 till 1920 that are survived by miracle in the planet's bombarding in 1816. Just imagine how much years this tree needs to grow up to these sizes. And then comes freaks with saws and axes, 1, 2, and no more tree. In the proportion of these trees we can see rule. Diameter of the stump is about 3 times bigger than woodcutter's growth. Let's look on this formula. You just think about it. You are entering the forest whose height is not usual 30 meters, but 100. Here's your fairy forest from fairy tales and books. Forests that are lost forever, because of such barbarians. I understand that they are just wage workers, that they must feed their family, that it's just an order above, but if every single woodcutter refused to do this crime order, all forests will be saved, cause Mason's demons are too arrogant to do it with their own little hands. That's why I will send these merry woodcutters defenders to well-known place. Look at these photos carefully. They look like satanic bacteria that finishes forest organism. For those who think that trees were killed just because of wood materials, I want to dispel your claims. Trees are energy generators. They produce constant electricity, oxygen from photosynthesis, food. They have root network and are programmed to exchange data. Our ancestry had a theory that trees are programmed to keep data from everything on the planet and saving it in their information portal in the carbon fibers. I don't know the reason, but some sequoias these vandals left alive, even put a fence and called wildlife sanctuary. Of course, guides in the parks will tell you tales from the crypts, how in the Stupidozoic era Stupidosaurus scratched their booty on these old sequoias of California. Let's summarize everything. Remains of the giant trees of the past are found, and homeless ice and snow of the poles took this place in the mosaic. It seems like everything is clear, but it's not. Nothing is so simple. If you take myths and legends of all nations, you can find lots of stories about people, animals and plants morphing into stone. This is normal, cause paleontologists all over the world dig petrified fossils of humans, animals and plants. There are so many of them that museums are overfull of petrified fossils of clovers, frogs, lizards, pieces of dinosaurs, and on and on. Frogs and clovers, it's all good, but we have forest debate. Guys, where are the trees? Old sequoias of California do not fit here, cause they are made of carbon. It means that they did not caught the silicon era. Why I know that? First of all, they were cut and sawed by standard instruments. All axes and saws will break of silicon. So, where are silicon trees, if those giants from carbon are not related to the silicon era? Guess what? They were found. Try to think where. In the same North America, in the Arizona to be precise. This zone of Aryans. There are so many things going on there. The giant quarry, that now is called Grand Canyon. Like one person under the nickname Wake Up Human said, it's apogee of cynicism to name quarry wastes as national parks. It's not a national park, it's just a quarry waste. And what an ancient Russian word's root kolo is doing in the opposite part of the world, the root ra I won't even mention. Here is even city of Aryans, from which left only the vortex that made hooligan meteorite 50,000 years ago, of course. It is how Wikipedia is telling us this total bullshit. Oh, by the way, here are our silicon trees. I want to introduce you the museum under the open sky. Stone trees here are just scattered in the desert and also fenced. Everybody today can visit this circus by the name Petrified Forest National Park. In this park, petrified fossils are not common, they are unique. If turtles and frogs were petrified in pale grey boulders, then these trees morphed into semi-precious stones. Well, admired stone is beautiful, isn't it? It is time to take a stock. All our forests are young and do not grow higher than 30 meters. Remains of fairy forests were found in sequoias of California, and biologists put poles, ice and snow in its place. We found petrified fossils of Silicon era and trees from precious. Now everything fits together, right? Oh no. In perfect world everything is fit. In our cursed hell nothing is fit. Since that time when I was a kid and saw petrified fossils on TV show, I was tormented by the question. So it was born in child's head, but now it costs a lot. How it is possible for the frog to morph into stone instead of rot, like all organic bodies do? Let's see what Wikipedia is telling us. Special rare conditions must be met in order for the fallen stem to be transformed into fossil wood or petrified wood. In general, the fallen plants get buried in the environment free of oxygen, which preserves the original plant's structure and general appearance. Understood, dry British humor? If not, I'll try to explain. You need some spontaneous natural disaster, for example, volcano eruption, tsunami, clay rain, which can quickly cover frog and mammoths, made conserves from them, where bacteria won't decompose corpse to state of stinking manure. In other words, to make body petrified, you need to cover or engulf body and compact it. According to so-called scientists, the tissue was organic and then magically turned into silicon, SiO2. Remember this formula. If you have ever buried your home pets, you can quickly run and dig them out. Your beloved pet is petrified and you can put his statue on your table. Want to reproach me in black humor? Redirect it into official science community, which robs us such a bullshit. Immured body has only two options: dry up like an insect in the piece of amber, or second option, just simply rot. Organic body will never ever turn into rubble. Never. This absurd is invented to hide the truth. Magical morphing into stone rubbles is a little sin. Transmorphing wood into semi-precious stones, this is where the lies and ignorance becomes uncontrollable. Tell me, how stalk of wood can become semi-precious stones? No answer, but I have. And we will discuss this lately. But now let's analyze this James show. I don't know how about you, but I am confused by 3 points. First of all, according to the official story, these trees fell in unequal battle against neighbor volcano. Attention, 225 million years ago. Continuation of a story is even more exciting. That would not only burned in hell's fire, not only rotted in the wet ground, but in the contrary to all laws of physics, chemistry and biology, just transmorphed into precious gems. David Copperfield is nervously smokes on the sideline. But this is not the end. Trees are not broken. Trees are sawn into accurate pieces. Well, I want to know the name of brand of the chainsaw that Indian aborigines used for this. I am joking, of course, but the conclusion is that this is not a museum, but staged theater. Trees were sawn, cut and brought here by someone. You know, only true fool will believe in magic transmorphing of wood into precious stones and gems. And we have next question. For what purpose they made this circus with this broad and scattered through trees of silicon life form? And did you pay attention how small these silicon trees are? They are incomparable even with sequoias of California. But this one is simple. They are not trees. They are branches of the giant silicon trees. And those trees were so big that American sequoias near them are like little stick near the baobab. And while tourists are gaping near these precious gems, no one is paying attention into the background, because everything is hid in it, in our plain sight. To understand what I am talking about, we shall return to our favorite picture of grass plot, and I want to ask you what you see. A tree stump in the daisies. But I continue to claim that this is mesa, that formed from a magmatic melt from the Earth's deeps about 200 million years ago. Do not believe me? And now, let me introduce to you. This is Devil's Tower, mesa, or so-called lacalith, that is formed from a magmatic melt from the Earth's deeps about 200 million years ago. At least this is how Wikipedia is telling us. And billions of people are believing that this is mesa, or lacalith, or mountain. Huh? Really? Let's come closer to our tree stump to look at his fantastically inexplicable columns. Let's look in Wikipedia once again. Igneous rock is formed through the cooling and solidification of magma or lava. Huh? What a smart magmatic melt. He just stand and frozen in appearance of perfect hexagonal columns for 300 meters in the sky. You can synchronize your instruments on these miracle columns. Were they squeezed out of cram injector, then tied in a bun like a broom, and big giant fan blowed near to help columns to curdle fast? Huh? Maybe columns of Parthenon or Isaac's Cathedral were built in the same way? Gentlemen scientists, are you out of your mind writing in this garbage? Humans, are you out of your mind believing in this garbage? Claiming that this geometrical masterpiece appeared as the result of lava fountain, the same bullshit as claiming that racing car appears on the track because of explosion on a Ferrari factory. Have you ever seen what fountain of lava looks like? In those times lava had artificial intelligence? Huh? Really? Comparative analysis. All columns are hexagonal. Why exactly hexagonal? Because universe's masterpieces are built in this form. There are no same snowflakes, but all of them are in perfect hexagonal shape. These two, without knowledge of mathematics, correctly identified that regular hexagon has least perimeter among all of the other regular shapes of equal area, so you can fill this shape most efficiently. When bees build honeycombs, they instinctively try to make them more roomy as possible, spent with as little wax as possible. Hexagonal shape is the most economical and efficient figure for building a honeycombs. Blind sheep can't understand that our universe is fractal. That is why no difference in what scale you will study it, in scale of mountain or scale of tree that everyone have under their window. And now let's open botany textbook. Let's find structure of any plant and let's compare it with our giant stump. We won't go deep into this, we want only those facts that will fall into our hands from the stump's photos. So it will be useless to try to argue against those facts. I want to introduce you a cross-section of the stem of flax. Well, gentlemen biologists, are you noticing anything? No? Look, seems like honeycombs in the middle. Oh, way! And they are all hexagonal. Well, what a coincidence. If we remove skin around this flax, our stump skin is already removed. Look at the small rocks around it. And guess what? Flax looks exactly like our stump from the bird's eye. They look identical. Exactly. Stump's fibers, like the fibers of the flax, has hexagonal shape that is strictly preserved its geometry along the entire length of the stem, and that is as much as 384 meters. I want you to pay attention that Stump's fibers even stricter in their proportion that stem from the textbooks of botany. The fibers are no different for the whole length, but also relative to each other. The feeling that it is a branch of armature, hexagonal cross-section, after leaving the metal rolling mill. The fibers are not attached to each other, since freely exfoliate and fall as the stone erosion goes. Each fiber of our stump is covered by a thin skin, exactly like fascia, a thin sheath of fibrous tissue enclosing a muscle or other organ. As you see, petrified skin contacting wind and moisture is cracking, exfoliate and showed and this is direct evidence that fibers of stump are consist of at least two components placed in each other. Fibers do not go into the ground vertically, they are gradually bent to transform into the root system like every tree should do. As you see, the official story of spontaneous and accidental solidification of lava is 100% bullshit and falling apart. No, I understand that Hollywood in 1977 made film called Close Encounters of the Third Kind, with Devil Tower playing the main role, where we were told 100 times that this is mountain where we can meet aliens, but this garbage is suitable for fools only. And where your eyes were, gentlemen scientists? Hey, biologists, geologists, paleontologists, are you here? Do you study the world in the welder mask? And now let's find out the height of the tree, which this stump was one day. Let's use the formula that I mentioned earlier. The diameter of our stump is 300 meters at the base. If we sum 300 to 20, we will get the height of, are you ready? 6 kilometers. Just think about it. Everything is learned in comparison, isn't it? I think we can put a big fat dot in here. Devil's Tower is a giant stump of a giant silicon tree, with all attributes of a normal stump that everybody saw. But we should not underestimate the matrix that keeps all cattle in the stables. I am sure that even after such clear evidence, there will be deep sleeping people that will ask for more. If you think that all my arguments are ended, I want to disappoint you, cause I have so many trump cards in my sleeve, and I will enjoy every moment where I will throw them on the table. Well, we figured out everything about this stump, let's move to another one. Yes, and you thought that this is the only one? You just need to remove your blinkers, and you will see so much. Let me introduce to you Giant's Causeway in Ireland. Noticed something familiar? Take a closer look. Again, these hexagonal columns. Whoa! If you do not notice similarity with the Devil's Tower's fibers, you must be 100% blind. This is the same giant stump, but now it's almost do not comes out of the ground. This tree grew right on the seashore. Giant Causeway consists of almost 40,000 of columns of such geometrical proportions that all the bees in the world will be jealous. Of course, all science nerds declared it to be National Nature Reserve, like I mentioned before, as one person with nickname Wake Up Human said. It is an apogee of the cynicism to name a quarry waste as a national park. In which connection a quarry waste here? I will say lately. But now guess what official science bleats about this Irish stump? Giant Causeway is an area of about 40,000 interblocking basalt columns, the result of an ancient volcanic eruption. Volcanic eruption! Ah! Please tell me how to stay calm and not erupt fountain of swear words in the direction of science society. It is very hard, but I will try, cause our enemies only want us to do it. I have only two questions. First of all, how many years was in coma C.C. Campbell? And second, why still these honeycombs were not declared as the result of an ancient volcanic eruption? Because they are not distinguished at all. No less strange why street sidewalk tiles are not declared as the result of the ancient volcanic eruption. Show me a single difference, nerds. And now I offer you to come back to our old method and compare Giant's Causeway with this time with real lava. Want to remind you how lava erupts and flows. And this is how it congeals. And now let's compare Devil's Tower with Giant's Causeway. Oh, sorry for my French. I mean, let's compare silicon stump with silicon stump. Somebody still believes in the lava fountain? If I didn't know about giant silicon trees, I'd rather believe in giant cram injector and fan, but not in volcanic garbage. If you think that these two giant silicon trees are the only thing I can show you, then you are mistaken. There are lots of them on the planet. The funniest thing that normal people do not realize that they are stumps, but official science realized seriously that they should find how to hide these trees from people who asks too much, and invented genius name for silicon stumps, the basalt cliffs. I want you to pay attention to those two pictures, where fibers hang from like the ceiling. How can volcanic version explain this? Lava was dripping, but its drops didn't fall to the ground, and other drops sticked by the hexagonal honeycombs to neighbor drops which somehow reached the ground. Look at this photo. Just a normal everyday photo with this girl. It is good, but the only thing that she do not realize that she is sitting near the giant stump of a silicon tree. All artifacts are in plain sight, but prism of matrix do not allow us to see 9 dolphins. There are tons of silicon stumps in the network. You can learn this topic by yourself. All distinctive features you know now, so Google will help you. And we are moving forward. And I want to show you one more hexagonal miracle of the Earth, of silicon nature. I want to introduce to you the biggest salt lake in the world, Salar de Uyuni, Bolivia. As you see, not everything is so simple as it's written in the textbooks and shown on Discovery Channel. For our tradition, wanted to show you what Wikipedia is telling us about this hexagon. But if fibers of silicon stumps Wiki is retouching somehow, then about hexagonal structure of the South American lake is keeping silence, like a fish. Like there is none of them. But they are there, absolutely there. You won't believe, but silent is not only Wikipedia. After hours of research, I found nothing about this hexagonal structure. And only in one place I found single phrase, like, "Look how interesting dried and cracked salt." And then I fell into a stupor. First of all, under the blazing sun's rays, every surface is cracking like this. But not in the hexagonal shape like a honeycombs. Second, cracks are deepenings between fragments of surface, but I see elevations. And this is the opposite to the cracks. It is more looks like a fiber fascia, like silicone stumps one. And third thing, why salt surface has exactly hexagonal shape? If official story has not even sensible explanation, but nothing at all, let me tell you my opinion. As Wake Up Human says, there are no salt lakes on Earth, but just sludge salting tanks. I agree with him, but not in this case. And there is why. I think that you already realized that hexagonal shape is an attribute belonged exclusively to a living organism. Either it is possession of the queen bee, snowflake structure, or plant fibers. As we've seen with our own eyes, Saladar Uni, it's not just a giant layer of salt. It was a living being of silicon form of life that was scraped out by adepts of technocracy, by their machines. Now you understand how far we are from the reality. If giant tree is somehow, we can imagine, with our pathetic mind, then creature from salt 10,000 square kilometers wide and unclear what height, we can't imagine. Now you understand that 7,500 years ago our planet was so fantastic, fabulous and beautiful that Cameron with his avatar is poor substitute. And all is left to us is a desert which we had turned into a scrapyard. And what I mean by saying scraped out by their machines? Well, to be short, while our society was sleeping in this matrix, working 9 to 5 hours every day, doing useless things, dreaming useless dreams, our planet literally was scraped out and are scraping it now, with giant graders and machines. I will show you later. Well, theoretical part is over now, and it is time for climax, and we are going to runway. But before we should return to our first stump and see one strange thing in it. I bet you did not notice it. We saw many stumps, but this one is special. He has flat surface on top. It means that it was cut it down. Yes, exactly cut it, or sawn. And now our imagination is asking us, who cut it? For what? With what they cut it? I will answer these questions lately. We will put this question into the background because this stump that was cut is not single one on our planet. I will tell you even more. Devil's Tower is small one compared to others. Boys and girls, our aircraft is ready to fly. Our course is, well, we have no course. We will fly our planet around. Fasten your seat belts and better hold the handrails, cause everything you will see will overturn your notion of rocks and mountains. Let's go. While we are flying, let's play a game. Find 10 differences. So, there are only two differences, material and size. These stumps are sticked out everywhere on the whole planet. There are hundreds of them. Scientists call them mesas, table from Spanish, because they have flat peak, flat as table. Well, cool, stumps. And now let's remember beginning of our conversation. We thought we saw forests and even walked in them. So what matters if they are only 30 meters high? Is there a difference? We are pleased with this one that left. We enjoy their beauty, make bacon on a weekend. We are accustomed to these forests, so we do not need another one. Then we discovered that old forests was preserved in USA, which is described in fairy tales and myths. Giant 100-meter sequoias, exactly this forest our mind drawn in when we hear word fairy forest. On the sequoias of California, our mind is stopping, price of matrix forces. Otherwise, our mind's protectors will melt, because Devil's Tower points to 6 kilometers high tree. But then we realized that Devil's Tower is a young plant compared to other trees on our planet. For example, mountain in the Cape Town, Africa. This is what really impressive. This plateau is 3 kilometers in diameter. If we sum 3 to 12, we will get tree of 60 kilometers high. Do you even give yourself a report how big its branches are? Only on one of its branches you can easily place huge residential quarter with all shopping malls, schools, parks. Just imagine how huge it is. Of course your mind will never see that this mountain in Africa is a tree that is 10 times higher than Devil's Tower tree. 60 kilometers. Where do they above? But guess what? This is not the limit. In the work of our Russian scientist and poet Alexander Sergeyevich Pushkin, we can read about giant fairy oak that was on the Buyansk island, that we now believe been killed by our governments. That oak was supposedly in the center of the earth and was some hundreds kilometers high. Not sure how high, but for sure higher than Cape Town's one. This oak was the biggest plant on the earth. Remember, in the beginning I mentioned our prism of mind that helps to preserve it but distorts our reality. Ask any person to show you trees on the right photo, and he will immediately put his finger on the green on the ground, without noticing that this is only pathetic bushes. Even can't say bushes, more looks like a moss in compared to this size, but definitely not a forest. Now you can understand why we can't find 9 dolphins, but do not dwell on fish and stumps. Once again, I want to urge you to think in planet sizes. If instead of dolphins and stumps we see lovers and mountains, imagine what is hidden from us with a curtain. That's why apocalypse is translated as curtain opening. Do you now understand why I mentioned this matrix prism in the beginning, through which we are looking in, and it turned out that we see nothing? The real world is different. I can call today's state of the society a real dream, and the sad part that it is not figuratively. You know, in Russian language, word tree is spelled de, re, vo. Word ancient tree is spelled d, re, vo. And the word Ancient tree is spelled drevnost. It means that on Russian language, the language of Aryans, ancient tree means time when old giant trees grew. Interesting, isn't it? Well, let's put all lyrics in the background and continue our flight. I think you will ask me, maybe it is time to come back to our questions. Who cut it? For what? What they used to cut trees? No, it is too early. We know that the whole face of our planet was covered by giant vegetation. So we can ask ourselves, where did all other forests go? The thing is that these so-called mesas are just single ones, best trees that were chosen for cutting. Whole other forests of the planet was laid down by blast waves. We reviewed only stumps with flat peak. Does anyone remember how not cutted, but broken tree looks like? I will remind you. Understood my hint? No? Let's play a game again. Find 10 differences. I think you understood meanings of my words. So, I want you to look at the highest stumps of our planet that were mined like a quarry and were broke by a blast. For example, tree Everest. How you already guessed, there is no such thing as rocks on our planet. That's all just pieces of broken stumps. You can look at millions of photos, but only thing that you will find is corpses of our true environment. How official science explains origin of rocks, I think you guessed too. Now you understand why we are so charmed by rocks, why all elite properties is placed between rocks, why the most clean material for the construction are pieces of rocks, cause even if they are dead, they still emit powerful energy for us, mortal carbon human beings. Stone is a bridge between silicon and carbon life forms. And now, important thing, you must learn how to distinguish rocks from mountains. They are completely different things. Rocks consist of solid pieces of raised stone, with bulging to the sky fragments of fibers. But mountain is just a pile of loose waste, which were brought by giant machines. It has almost perfect cone shape, like every loose structure does. Sometimes those piles has chemical waste inside. Sometimes those wastes react with each other. Sometimes they just burn, but sometimes explode. And then nerds in the white coats scream that they invented a new volcano and tell immediately you, as stories from crypt, how 200 million years ago this volcano formed those silicon stumps, or explains origins of our streets sidewalk tiles as the result of the ancient volcanic eruption. That's why no such things as volcanoes, rocks and mountains. You can throw out those terms from your vocabulary. Okay, let's fly further. So, from our board you saw that absolutely all rocks on our planet are just corpses of silicon form of life. They all are fallen trees, you want to ask? No, not all of them has hexagonal structure, like Devil's Tower. Some of these rocks have lamella structure or spongy structure, like our mushrooms do. Like liver is different from our heart or lung. So, our ancient world was so diverse that we can't even identify or imagine lots of species and subspecies. And now let's imagine amount of the wood that must left after fall of such trees. Where all these materials are. If the trees were 6 to 100 kilometers, there must be loads, tons of the wood. You know, this theme was greatly disclosed by Pavel Ulyanov. He has nickname Wake Up Humans. He made a revolution in the theme of geology and principle of bucket wheel excavators work. Let me introduce to you. This giant cuttlefish on the photo is Badger 288, one of the world's biggest rotor excavators. And this is how those machines work. It crawls on its wheel parallel to the quarry wall. Giant wheel with ladles scratches out rock and ground and all living things, leaving concave wall after itself. Geologists must be hypnotized in schools while they are students, cause why else they call this quarry waste miracle of the nature, like for example this cliff in Australia. Want to laugh? If you do not believe in retardedness of the last stage, just Google wave rock and check official explanation. 100% unbelievable how people buy into this. Some people will ask, which stone was a part of the living plant and which was not? I want to tell you that at least 7,500 years ago there was no such thing as stones at all. Everything you can find now was a part of our ecosystem. But then people said that they want to be gods themselves and screwed everything up. I want to ask you, open your minds. They live, we sleep. But they not only live, they also are killing our planet. They are doing this even now, while you are watching in this. Wake up, humans! You must review all the knowledge they gave to you in elementary school, middle school, high school, history, geography, geology. Open your mind. I want you to look at these photos. Today we have lots of artifacts which we can't repeat because of certain conditions, as lack of technology, lack of equipment or specialists, and which are evidence that our civilization, at least 200 years ago and before, compared to us today, was more developed and our today's society are just kids in the sandbox. Here is some examples. Баболова Бес. Here is what Leisman, that was near it, tells us. Sorry for my language, but they are telling us absolute bullshit that somehow master made it for 7 years and polished it every day, like Papa Carlo. Absolute bullshit. With all my responsibility as Leisman of 5 level, I declare that this is machine procession. Concave and convex surfaces of this base strictly precise, circle on the whole diameter, very accurate spherical surface in the lower part of the base. Inside the base on the bottom, the same super accurate concavity for the whole diameter. This product is impossible to do manually, especially to polish it manually. I have an impression that it is only yesterday got out of machine. Polished is like from Isaac's cathedral's columns. It is impossible to do without high-class, high-speed polishing and grinding instruments. Next one, Alexandrian columns. Weight is 600 tons, 27 meters high. Without turning in this on a lathe machine, this column has shape of entasis, simply impossible to do manually. Peru, Ollantaytambo. Polygonal docking of blocks, weight is 120 tons. The level of adjustment you can see yourself. Blocks are aligned in 3 dimensions. Capella San Severo, made from a single piece of marble. This is impossible without advanced CNC machine. For the last 50 years there was nothing even far similar in complexity of execution has not been done by any sculptor, even with the CNC machine. Marble tombstone on Monumental Cemetery, Santiago, Museum in Genoa. Stone bridges in Sevastopol. Each polygonal stone of the bridge is essentially a single sculpture. An example of modern work with the stone is on the left. By today's standards, it is considered quite acceptable. All the cities on the planet were built of stone in antique style, with pre-designed layouts of streets, avenues, embankments, and so on. All cities have stone bastion wall, construction volume which is often equal to the construction volume of the city. Something about 1780 to 1815 years we experienced nuclear war. Is likely not the first time in the world, which resulted in the nuclear winter in the 1816, a year without summer. The Anglo-Saxons call it 1800 and froze to death. Here is some screenshots from Google Earth, photos of nuclear craters in the territories such as Belarus. Such craters are easy to find. White traces around craters are broken limestone, the basic material of that time. To visualize the damage, search in Google Roger Ainton Crimea or James Robertson Crimea and see the pictures, and you will see photos of this first war photographers sent in the Crimea in 1853 after nuclear war to take pictures of the siege of Sevastopol. Compare vegetation then and today. An example of photo of Sevastopol by Ainton. Until the 18th century, houses were built almost entirely of limestone, For cutting were used advanced machines to make a perfect parallelepipeds. Here are some photos of the houses in Crimea. All houses in all cities of old USSR are covered with clay for 3 or 4 meters. All houses that are deepened into the ground 4 meters have such good quality. It takes 200 years, and during the Soviet era, such a masonry of limestone is considered to be very good. It is Eskickerman. Illiterate guides will tell you that it is one of the cave cities of Crimea where people lived. When I asked about this track, I was told that this track is done by cartwheels of local nobility, and this is another so-called cave city of the Crimea. And this is modern quarry where limestone is mined. This photo is made before the revolution 1917. You can see that from the rock is accurately cutted segment, the bottom of which runs the railway and where a house is standing. And now very important photo of Ingerman's quarry, the name Champagne, made in 1890. You can clearly see cutted passageways through the rock, 100 meters in width and 80 meters of height. Under the vertical wall we can see small pieces of limestone and limestone crumb that fell off because of working saw machine. In the cutted holes we can clearly see houses. Some of these holes are beginnings of catacombs. Some of them are extend for hundreds of kilometers. Is conducted a large-scale underground mining of limestone. In the days of the Second World War, in the catacombs were hospitals, warehouses, headquarters. Trucks freely drive in and out of these catacombs. By the way, there are ancient catacombs at any city of the world. Near Odessa, catacombs length is 2,500 kilometers. Everything they tell us as rocks, canines, ravines, cliffs are just nothing more than a quarry. There are very old quarries over there and many fresh ones. This is White Rock in the Belogorsk near Crimea. It is limestone quarry. The wall was formed as a result of the cut slope of the hill. Want to see more? Look at the passage from which huge mass of limestone was taken. They lie to you, and guess how they call it? They call it valley, beautiful wonder of the earth. Check this out. This is old photo from 19th century, mounted at the vertical wall of limestone chips, not yet overgrown with vegetation. This is old painting from 1855. We can see ancient giant quarry wastes in the background. Are you impressed by the scale of the mining just in little Crimea? I want to tell more. There is no cubic feet of land, probably 100 meters deep over the entire earth, which would not have been in its times mined, milled, masticated and discarded. It is not a planet, but a giant quarry waste pit, where the most violent and barbaric way the whole periodic table of Mendeleev is extracted. And now look at these photos and pay attention to the tight structure of the quarries and mines. Rotor excavators tight cuts massives. Its formed structure with right angles when viewed from above. And now I want to show you the rocks, ridges, gorges canines, cliffs, in almost uninhabited nowadays places with different romantic names. Often they are named by the name of their discoverer. Are all academics and professors of geology and other scientific nerds do not see it? Mountain on the Kolan Peninsula do not know the name. Mountains on Antarctica that were only discovered in 1820. Antarctica. Here even left the traces of the heavy machines and equipment. Greenland, Watkins Mountains. Look at the scale of mining. Greenland. Flight Frankfurt, Los Angeles. Gunbjorn, the highest mountain in the Greenland. 3,700 meters. No problem. Almost completely got it. Svalbard, Norway. Aurora Borealis in the background of Quarry. Antarctica. Transantarctic Mountains. At the foot, traces of the machines are still visible. Antarctica. Transantarctic Mountains. Quarry system. Pay attention to the background. Mount Kailash, Tibet. The height is 6,638 meters high. Have you ever seen that in our time heavy mining equipment were raised to such heights? Goblin Valley, State Park, Utah, USA. Gloss Mountains, State Park, Oklahoma, USA. Grand Canyon, Arizona, USA. It is just giant quarry waste, gutted territory. Millions of tourists think that it is almost a miracle of the world because they were told so. Quarry, Grand Canyon, Arizona, USA. Nowhere we can find traces of water erosion, only the shock explosive impacts on the silicon vegetation. Quarry, Rocks, Spitsbergen. Quarry, Grand Canyon, the cut of the stone with circular saw. Quarry in Australia, Blue Mountains. Blue Mountains from another angle. Blue Mountains, the vertical wall, compare it with the marble quarry in the Alps, has not yet been subject by water and erosion. And this is marble mining in the Alps. Giant quarry, do not know where. This photo is offered as a wallpaper on the desktop across the internet. Cap Rock, Canyons State Park, Texas. Again, a national park created from the exhausted quarry waste in USA. In some quarries where much moisture, people do farming. Binaue, rice terraces. Again, Binaue, rice terraces. And this is Canyon de Chelly, National Monument, USA. There the Sofs apparently did tunneling, so-called Painted Hills in Oregon, Mountains Ravine, South Africa, Orange River and Mountains. National Park in Israel, just a quarry, Tamna. Quarry, Green Canyon in China. Flooded quarry, Charak Reservoir in Uzbekistan. Flooded quarry, another angle. As you see, there are no natural so-called rocks, gorges, canyons, cliffs, ravines on this planet. You know, while people argue in the internet how flat the earth is, like a pancake? Or maybe a little concave? Our masters literally devouring our home and turning it into a desert and scrapyard. Guess what? It appears that there are quarries on our planet the size of several countries. For example, in Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, Afghanistan, Kazakhstan, Iran. There is almost no soil in the most part of these countries, because 100 meters layer with soil and all living things on it was removed. It looks like the Aral Sea and the Caspian Sea are just giant flooded quarries. Yes, yes, all areas in the world that is painted yellow on Google Maps are the bottoms of quarry wastes. Uzgurt Plateau in the middle of the picture is group of the cars. If you fill this quarry with a layer of water 15 meters high, you will get the analogy of the Sea of Azov. And this is Sea of Azov, flooded all quarry. The bottom is smooth as a table on which rotor excavators rolled. The maximum depth is 15 meters. Perhaps thorium was mined here. The edge of the Karakum Desert, the area of 350,000 kilometers squared. The impression that planetary reaper worked here. In reality, quarry, for the list of population, Kanayan Yangikala, the wonder of the world, Turkmenistan. In reality, quarry, for the population, Plateau, Tuzbar, Kazakhstan. USA, Monument Valley. Previously, this area was several hundred meters high, up to the stumps of the silicon trees in the background. Same Monument Valley, USA. Namibia. This desert is bottom of the quarry. Egypt. Top layer is scraped out with soil and all living things on it, also burnt by nuclear blasts. Most part of the Australia is cutted and scraped almost completely. No soil, only red desert left. Australia. Nigeria, desert. The conclusion is deserts are 100% artificial. They emerged as a result of long-term mining activities. Even more, you can easily and safely replace the world's canyons, gorges, rocks, ravines, plateaus, a mountain lake, just a simple lake in your vocabulary to the words quarry, mine, flooded quarry and flooded mine. Krivoborye in Russia. Krivoborye in different angle. In the middle of this island, overgrown with bushes, stood rotary excavator. Creax Do1 in Switzerland. Obviously the work of rotary excavator. Siberia, Anabari quarry. And now look at this. This is piles of waste rock in Donbass. Their height sometimes reaching 300 meters. Inside them are chemical reactions. They burn and sometimes they even explode when they accumulate excess pressure. And some more. And now let me introduce to you. This is just a pile of waste called Vesuvius in Italy. 1281 meters high. But science nerds will tell you that this is volcano because it's burning and even once it's exploded. What a story! How people buy into it is beyond me. And now look at the biggest piles of waste that officially called terracons or volcanoes on our planet. This is terracon in Fujiyama in Japan. People, if you think that our masters lie to you, you are still sleeping. If you think that the earth is flat, you are half awakened. We live on a desert and giant quarry that we are turning into a scrapyard.